Anu said to Alalu, "For your departing from Nibiru there was no reason, enmity is not in Anu's heart." Part 6. The fate of Nibiru is in my hands, to my conditions you must give heed. Those were the words of Alalu, from dark-hued earth to Nibiru they were by the speaker beamed. When the words of Alalu to Anu, the king, were conveyed, Anu astounded were the counselors, amazed were the sages. Alalu is not dead? They each other asked. Could indeed he on another world be living? They with disbelief were saying. Was he not on Nibiru hiding, in the chariot to a place of concealment gone? The commanders of chariots were summoned, savants the beamed words considered. The words from Nibiru did not come, from beyond the hammered bracelet were they spoken. This was their finding, this to Anu the king they reported. Stunned was Anu, the happening he pondered. Let words of acknowledgement to Alalu be sent, to the assembled he was saying. At the place of the celestial chariots the command was given, to Alalu words were spoken. Anu the king, to you his greeting sends, of your well-being to learn he is pleased. For your departing from Nibiru there was no reason, enmity is not in Anu's heart. If gold for salvation you have indeed discovered, let Nibiru be saved. The words of Anu Alalu's chariot did reach, Alalu them quickly answered. If your savior I am to be, your lives to save. Convene the princes to assembly, my ancestry declare supreme. Let the commanders make me their leader, bow to my command. Let the council pronounce me king, on the throne Anu to replace. When the words of Alalu on Nibiru were heard, great was the consternation. How could Anu be deposed? The counselors asked each other. What if Alalu mischief, not truth, is telling? Where is his asylum? Did gold indeed he find? They summoned the sages, of the wise and learned counseling they asked. The oldest of them spoke, I was Alalu's master. He was saying. He had hearkened to teachings of the beginning, of the celestial battle he was learning. Of the watery monster Tiamat and her golden veins he knowledge acquired. If indeed beyond the hammered bracelet he had journeyed. On earth, the seventh planet, is his asylum. In the assembly a prince spoke up, a son of Anu he was, of the womb of Antu, Anu's spouse, he was the issue. Enlil was his name, lord of the command it meant. Words of caution he was saying. Of conditions Alalu cannot speak. Calamities were his handiwork, by single combat in wrestling he the throne forfeited. If Tiamat's gold he indeed had found, proof of that is needed. Is it for protecting our atmosphere sufficient? How through the hammered bracelet to Nibiru can it be brought? Thus did Enlil, the son of Anu, speak, others many questions also asked. Much proof was greatly needed, many answers are required, all agreed. The words of the assembly to Alalu were conveyed, a response demanded. Alalu the words merit pondered, to transmit his secrets he agreed. Of his journey and its perils in truth he an account gave. Of the tester its crystal innards he removed, from the sampler its crystal heart he took out. Into the speaker he the crystals inserted, all the findings to transmit. Now that proof has been delivered, declare me king, bow to my command. He sternly demanded. The sages were aghast, with weapons of terror Alalu on Nibiru more havoc caused. With weapons of terror a path through the bracelet he blasted. Once in its circuit Nibiru that region passes, calamities Alalu is amassing. In the council there was much consternation, the kingship to alter was indeed a grave matter. Anu not by ancestry alone was king, by fair wrestling the throne he attained. In the assembly of the princes, a son of Anu stood up to speak. He was wise in all matters, among the sages renowned he was. Of the secrets of waters he was a master, enki, he whose home is water, he was called. Of Anu he was the firstborn, to Damkina, Alalu's daughter, he was espoused. My father by birth is Anu the king, Enki was saying, Alalu by marriage my father is. To bring the two clans into unison was my espousal's intention. Let me be the one in this conflict unity to bring. Let me Anu's emissary to Alalu be, let me be the one Alalu's discoveries to uphold. Let me in a chariot to earth journey, a path through the bracelet with water, not fire, I shall fashion. On earth, from the waters let me the precious gold obtain, to Nibiru back it will be sent. Let Alalu be king on earth, a verdict of the sages awaiting. If Nibiru it will save, let there be a second wrestling, who shall Nibiru rule let it determine. The princes, the counselors, the sages, the commanders heard Enki's words with wonder. Full of wisdom they were, for conflict they solution found. Let it so be. Anu announced. Let Enki journey, let the gold be tested. Alalu a second time I shall then wrestle, let the winner be on Nibiru king. The words of decision to Alalu were conveyed. Pondered them and agreed, let Enki, my son by marriage, to earth come. Let gold from the waters be obtained, let it for salvation on Nibiru be tested. Let a second wrestling kingship by me or Anu settle. So be it. Anu in the assembly decreed. Enlil rose in objection, the king's word unalterable was. Enki to the place of the chariots went, commanders and sages he consulted. The mission's dangers he contemplated, how to extract and bring the gold he considered. Alalu's transmission he carefully studied, Alalu for more testings the results he requested. A tablet of destinies for the mission he was fashioning. If water be the force, where could it be replenished? Where on the chariot will it be stored, how to force will it be converted? A full circuit of Nibiru did pass in contemplations, a shar of Nibiru in preparations past. The largest celestial chariot for the mission has been fitted. Its circuit's destiny has been calculated, a tablet of destiny has been firmly fixed. 50 heroes will for the mission be required to journey to earth the gold to obtain. To the journey Anu his approval gave. The stargazers for the journey the right time to begin then selected. At the place of the chariots multitudes gathered, to bid farewell to the heroes and their leader did they come. Bearing eagles' helmets, carrying each a fish's suit, the heroes the chariot one by one entered. The last to embark was Enki, to the gathering he bade farewell. Before his father Anu he knelt down, the king's blessing to receive. My son, the firstborn, a far journey you have undertaken, for us all to be endangered. Let your success calamity from Nibiru banish, go and in safety come back. So did Anu to his son speak a blessing, bidding him farewell. The mother of Enki, the one called Ninal, to her heart embraced him. Why, after by Anu as a son to me you were given, did he with a restless heart you endow? Go and come back, the hazardous road traverse safely. To him she said. With tenderness Enki kissed his spouse, Damkina he without words embraced. Enlil with his half-brother locked arms. Be blessed, be successful. To him he said. With heavy heart Enki the chariot entered, to soar up the command he gave. Now this is the account of the journey to the seventh planet. And how the legend of the Fishgod who came from the waters was begun. With heavy heart Enki the chariot entered, to soar up the command he gave. The commander's seat by Anzu, not by Enki, was occupied, Anzu, not Enki, was the chariot's commander. Phi who knows the heavens his name's meaning was, for the task he was especially selected. A prince among the princes he was, of royal seed his ancestry he counted. The celestial chariot he deftly guided, from Nibiru it powerfully soared, toward the distant sun he it directed. 10 leagues, 100 leagues the chariot was coursing, 1,000 leagues the chariot was journeying. Little Gaga came out to greet them, a welcome to the heroes it was extending. To blue-hued unto, the beautiful enchantress, it showed the way. By her sight Anzu was attracted. Let us examine her waters. Anzu was saying. Enki to continue without stopping gave the word, it is a planet of no return, he forcefully said. Toward the heavenly inn, the third in planetary counts, the chariot continued. On his side was An lying, his host of moons about him were whirling. The tester's beams the presence of water was revealing, a stop if needed to Enki it was indicating. To continue the journey was Enki saying, toward Anshar, the heaven's foremost prince, he was directing. Soon the ensnaring pull of Anshar they could tell, his colored rings with fear they admired. Deftly did Anzu the chariot guide, the crushing dangers he cleverly avoided. The giant Kishar, foremost of firm planets, was next to be encountered. Her net's pull was overpowering, with great skill did Anzu the chariot's course divert. With fury Kishar at the chariot divine lightnings was thrusting, her host at the uninvited. She directed. Slowly Kishar moved away, for the chariot the next enemy to encounter. Beyond the fifth planet the hammered bracelet was lurking. Enki his handiwork to set Awaring commanded, the water thruster to prepare. Toward the host of turning boulders the chariot was rushing. Each one like a slingshot stone ferociously at the chariot aimed. The word by Enki was given, with the force of 1,000 heroes the stream of water was thrust. One by one the boulders turned face, a path for the chariot they were making. But as one boulder fled, another in its stead was attacking. A multitude beyond count was their number, a host for the splitting of Tiamat revenge seeking. Again and again Enki the commands gave, the water thruster to keep a whirring. Again and again toward the host of boulders streams of water were directed. Again and again the boulders their faces turned, a path for the chariot making. And then at last the path was clear, unharmed the chariot could continue. A cry of joy the hero sounded, double was the joy as the sight of the sun was now unveiled. Amidst the elation Anzu the alarm sounded, for the path to have fashioned, excessive waters were consumed. Waters to feed the chariot's fiery stones for the remaining journey were not sufficient. In the dark deepness the sixth planet they could see, the sun's rays it was reflecting. There is water on Lamu, Ed was saving. Can you bring the chariot clown upon it? Anzu he was asking. Deftly Anzu the chariot toward Lamu directed, reaching the celestial god, around it he the chariot made circle. The planet's net is not great, its pull is to handle easy, Anzu was saying. A sight to behold was Lamu, many-hued it was, snow-white was its cap, snow-white were its sandals. Reddish-hued was its middle, in its midst lakes and rivers were a-glitter. Deftly Anzu the chariot made travel slower, by a lakeside it gently came down. Enki and Anzu their eagles' helmets donned, to the firm ground they stepped down. On command the heroes that which water sucks extended, the chariot, bowels with the lake's waters to fill. While the chariot was getting its fill of waters, Enki and Anzu the whereabouts examined. With tester and sampler all that matters they ascertained, the waters were good for drinking, the air was insufficient. All was in the chariot's annals recorded, the need for the detour described. With its vigor replenished the chariot soared up, to benevolent Lamu farewell bidding. Beyond the seventh planet was making its circuit, Earth and its companion the chariot were inviting. In the commander's seat Anzu was without words, Enki too was silent. Ahead was their destination, its gold Nibiru's fate for salvation or doom containing. The chariot must be slowed or in Earth's thick atmosphere it shall perish. Anzu to Enki declared. Around Earth's companion, the moon, make slowing circles. Enki to him suggested. They circled the moon, by the vanquishing Nibiru in the celestial battle it prostrate and scarred was lying. Having the chariot thus slowed clown, toward the seventh planet Anzu the chariot directed. Once, twice the Earth's globe he made the chariot circle, ever closer to the firm land he lowered it. Snow-hued was 2/3 of the planet, dark-hued was its middle. They could see the oceans, they could see the Finn lands, for the signal beacon from Alalu they were searching. Where an ocean touched dry land, where 4 rivers were swallowed by marshes, Alalu's signal was beaconed. Too heavy and large the chariot is for the marshes. Enzu was declaring. The earth's pulling net, too powerful for on dry land to descend it is. Enzu to Enki announced. Splash down. Splash down in the ocean's waters. Enki to Enzu shouted. Around the planet Enzu made one more circuit, the chariot with much care toward the ocean's edge he lowered. The chariot's lungs he collapsed with air, into the waters down it splashed, into the depth, it was not sinking. From the speaker a voice was heard, to earth be welcomed. Alalu was saying. By his beamed words the direction of his whereabouts was determined. Toward the place Enzu the chariot directed, floating as a boat it was upon the waters moving. Soon the wide-ranging ocean narrowed, dry land on both sides as guardian appeared. On the left side brown-hued hills were rising, on the right mountains to heaven their heads raised. Toward the place of Alalu was the chariot moving, floating like a boat upon the waters it was. Ahead the dry land was covered with flooding, marshes the ocean were replacing. Enzu to heroes commands uttered, their fishes' suits to put on he ordered. A hatch of the chariot was then opened, into the marshes the heroes descended. Strong ropes to the chariot they attached, with the ropes the chariot they were pulling. Alalu's beamed words more powerful were becoming. Hurry! Hurry! He was saying. At the edge of the marshes, a sight there was to behold. Gleaming in the sunrays was a chariot from Nibiru, Alalu's celestial boat it was. The heroes their paces quickened, toward Alalu's chariot they hurried. Impatient, Enki donned his fish's suit, within his chest his heart was like a dram beating. Into the marsh he jumped, toward its edge hurried steps he directed. High were the marshes flooding, deeper was the bottom than he expected. He changed his gait to swimming, with bold strokes forward he advanced. As dry land he was approaching, green meadows he could see. Then his feet touched firm ground, he stood up and by walking he continued. Ahead he could see Alalu standing, with his hands with vigor waving. Coming out of the waters, ashore Enki stepped, on dark-hued earth he was standing. Alalu toward him came running, his son by marriage he powerfully embraced. Welcome to a different planet. Alalu to Enki said. Now this is the account of how Eridu on earth was established, how the count of 7 days was begun. In silence did Alalu Enki embrace, with tears of joy his eyes were filled. Before him Enki bowed his head, respect for his father by marriage he was showing. In the marshes the heroes were advancing, more donned fish's suits, more toward the dry land were rushing. Keep the chariot afloat. Enzu was commanding. In the waters anchor it, the mud ahead avoiding. Ashore stepped the heroes, before Alalu they were bowing. Ashore came Enzu, the last the chariot to depart. Before Alalu he bowed, with him Alalu in welcome locked anus. To all who had arrived Alalu words of welcome spoke. To all who were assembled, Enki words of command spoke. Here on earth I am the commander. He was saying. On a life or death mission we have come, in our hands is Nibiru's fate. He looked about, for a place for encampment he was searching. Heap up soil, mounds fashion there. Enki gave command, an encampment to set up. To a place not afar he was pointing, a reed hut abode by Alalu erected. To Enzu then words he directed, to Nibiru words by beaming deliver. To the king my father, Anu, successful arrival announce. Soon the hue of the skies was changing, from brightness to reddish it was turning. A sight never seen before their eyes was unfolding, the sun, as a red ball, on the horizon was disappearing. Fear seized the heroes, of a great calamity afraid they were. Alalu with laughter words of comfort was saying, a setting of the sun it is. The ending of one day on earth it is marking. For a quick rest lie down, a night on earth is beyond imagining short. Before you expect the sun will an appearance make, on earth it will be morning. Before expecting, darkness came, the heavens from the earth it separated. Lightnings the darkness pierced, rains the thunders followed. By winds were the waters blown, storms of an alien god they were. In the chariot the heroes hunkered down, in the chariot the heroes huddled. Resting to them did not come, they were greatly agitated. With quickened hearts the sun's return they awaited. Smiling when its rays appeared they were, joyful and backslapping. And it was evening and it was morning, their first day on earth it was. By daybreak Enki the ongoings considered, to separate waters from waters heat he was giving. In Gur he made of the sweet waters the master, drinking waters to provide. To the snake pond with Alalu he went, its sweet waters to consider. Evil serpents in the pond were swarming. So did Engur to Enki say. The marshlands Enki then contemplated, the abundance of rainwaters he weighed. And Bilyulu he placed in charge of the marshlands, to mark out the thicket of reeds him he directed. And Kimdu in charge of ditch and dike he placed, a boundary for the marshes to fashion. For the waters that from heaven rain a gathering place to make. Thus were the waters below from the waters above separated, marsh waters from sweet waters asunder were set. And it was evening and it was morning, the second day on earth it was. When the sun morning announced, the heroes their assigned tasks were performing. With Alalu Enki to the place of grass and trees his steps directed. All that in the orchard grows, herbs and fruits after their kind to examine. To Isamud, his vizier, Enki questions was addressing. What is this plant? What is that plant? Him he was asking. Isamud, one of much learning, food that grows well he could distinguish. He tore a fruit for Enki, a honey plant it is. To Enki he was saying. One fruit he himself ate, one fruit Enki was eating. Of food that grows, by its good distinguished, Enki the hero guru put in charge. Thus were the heroes water and food provided, satiated they were not. And it was evening and it was morning, the third day on earth it was. On the fourth day the wind ceased blowing, the chariot by waves was not disturbed. Let tools from the chariot be brought, let abodes in the encampment be built. Enki thus commanded. Kulla in charge of mold and brick Enki appointed, from the clay bricks to fashion. Mushdamu to lay foundations he directed, dwelling abodes to erect. All day the sun was shining, the great light by day it was. By evetime Kingu, earth's moon, in fullness a pale light on earth it cast. A lesser light to rule the night, among the celestial gods accounted to be. And it was evening and it was morning, the fourth day on earth it was. On the fifth day Ea Ningursig a boat of reeds to fashion commanded. The measure of the marshes to take, the stretch of the swamplands to consider. Ulmash, he who what in the waters swarms knows, who of fowl that fly has understanding. Ulmash as a companion Enki took, between good and bad to distinguish. Kinds that in the waters swarm, kinds that in the skies give wing, to Ulmash many were unknown. Bewildering was their number. Good were the carp, among the bad they were swimming. And Bilyulu, the marshland's master, Enki summoned, and Kimdu, in charge of ditch and dike. Enki summoned. To them he gave words, in the marshlands to make a barrier. With cane brakes and green reeds an enclosure to fashion, fish from fish they're separate. A trap for carp that from a net could not escape. A place whose snare no bird that is good for food could escape. End of part 6. You will see in the next part. Thus were fish and fowl, by their good kind separated, for the heroes provided. And it was evening and it was morning, the fifth day on earth it was. On the sixth day Enki of the orchard's creatures took account.